we're back. We're back and we're live, just so everybody is aware. And first of all, before I welcome Josh, I need to give my opening spiel that everyone will be annoyed that I even say this in every video. But I am talking to 14 different fans for the 14 different playoff teams in the NFL. This is just a chance for people to get to know the different teams that we're going to see, because if we're honest with ourselves, we don't watch every team as in-depth as we would like to. So by the time the playoffs come around, we don't even know what these teams have going on or what they have to offer. So I thought it'd be cool to do this mini series. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this is between week 17 and 18. So whatever happens the final week, we will not talk about it. So assuming, just saying, if anything happens, we're not going to talk about it. So we're not going to talk matchups or anything like that, because we don't really know how that's going to work out. And then the other thing is, I don't feel that well. So if you hear me coughing and going off mute or whatever, don't worry. Everything's fine. I'm a big girl. I can handle it. But just so we're aware, if you see me go off and on camera, it's nothing personal. It's just I need a minute. But I should be fine. But I just always like to say that, because if I don't say it, then it happens. People are like, what happened to her then? So welcome back, Josh. We are here to talk all things Chargers. And we've said this a little bit before we hit record, but I feel like the Chargers are almost sometimes a forgotten about team. They're out west. I feel like big media doesn't talk a lot about the Chargers. We don't know a lot about the Chargers if you actually haven't sat to watch the Chargers play. That's kind of how I feel. We played the Chargers this year, and I've watched them for other reasons. But yeah, I'm excited for you to tell us more about them and how you think the season went and how you're feeling just as a fan. Like, are you excited? Like, what are you thinking? First year head coach gets to the playoffs. How are you feeling? How was the season for you?
It's been, and thank you for having me, Tanisha. It has been a great season. Just thinking of it going into here, like you get those surveys, you say satisfied, highly satisfied, very satisfied.
Yeah.
I would say more than satisfied. I thought we would at least get 9 wins. We're already in the double digits, possibly looking at an 11-win season, which is, we new coach, new system, new everything. It was a rebuild year. So a lot of us are hyped up. We're looking, this is great. Whatever happens is already good. And then we're hoping to get better. Right. So you can't ask for more. We're in the playoffs and just super excited to be where we're at right now.
Yeah. What are the fans? So, okay. Every fan base whines and complains about something, because that's what we do. What are the fans whining and complaining about right now? Is there anything where they're like, how are they feeling? Because, I mean, hello, this is like a turnaround. Like, how are they feeling?
I feel like they're more optimistic.
Okay.
There are still some weaknesses we have in our team and things to address. But just in general, the hype, the energy that the front office and of course our coach brings to the players and everything. It feeds. I mean, it spreads, and the fans are feeding off of it. And even with the losses and coming back and everything, they are still in it. They know we're the playoffs. Of course, the aspirations are always Super Bowl. You never know what can happen. Yeah. But we're just happy to be there and just have a turnaround that we did so quickly.
Yeah, I love that. Was there anything as you were watching this year that you felt like surprised you, or how? Like, I'm a Steelers fan. Like, our expectations are stupid, ridiculously high. So what does it feel? I've only experienced getting one new coach. So, and I was way younger, and that was Mike Tomlin. And so what surprised you this year? Like, going through this transition, getting a new coach, I thought you guys did a great job in the draft. That showed. What surprised you this year as you were watching the team?
Kind of like I mentioned earlier, I guess I was surprised about we had the turnaround, but how quickly it was.
Okay.
Just, adding a couple pieces here and there. We were tied with the salary cap. So we couldn't sign any big free agents. We have a bunch of 1-year contracts. We had to go through the draft. And we're sitting here going to the playoffs. A bunch of players that people don't know. Our starting running back, J.K. Dobbins. I mean, did anyone expect his name to be coming back, having the season that he had? Another thing is just a culture shift. In Charger land, there is a word and sometimes gets national attention, is called chargering. When you come close, you're about to win or you're supposed to win, and things fall apart and you lose. The biggest
Okay.
example, Jacksonville 2 years ago, we were up, I believe, 27-0, and blew it, and we lost
And
in the season.
in the playoffs,
So
right?
that's an example of charging. But there's been none of that this year. We had close games. We had a comeback win with the Bengals. We were up, I think, 27-3. They came back and tied it. And this is a game where, I'm watching live on social media. Everyone's like, oh my God, we're charging. And we ended up winning in the fourth quarter with 18 seconds left. That is the antithesis of it, the opposite of charging. So we love seeing that. Also, too, coming back from big losses, we lost to Tampa Bay a few weeks ago. They put up 40 points, and I think it was 40-17. The response to that, we won the next two games after that. Two big important games to get us to where we're at. So that's something that we're not used to. We're used to seeing, the downward spiral after a big loss like that. And then also just the next person up. Like I mentioned, we have a bunch of 1-year contracts, so we don't have much wiggle room to sign. There was a big cut from the Ravens, I believe, Deontay Johnson, who got cut, and we just didn't want to take that salary. We don't have much wiggle room, so we ended up, especially on our defense, when someone gets injured, picking people off the street. Especially in our secondary. We have Tony Jefferson, one of our safeties. Last year, he retired 2 years ago. And he came back. He joined the practice squad, which, funny enough, Jim Harbaugh calls the opportunity squad. And comes up and becomes a playmaker, a player on our team that we rely on. So just a lot of these great changes and just, we're not used to that, seeing any of this in Charger land. So,
I was shocked that every single team that needed a coach last year was not interviewing Harbaugh. Like I didn't understand it. I didn't click with me. I thought it was weird. And then it surprises me how many people are surprised that he did a great job, because we saw him do this already with the 49ers. We've seen this before, and we're all like, oh, we're so shocked. And I'm like, he's a difference maker. He makes a difference. And the thing, you said something that I don't think a lot of people focus on. He finds a way in losses to course correct. I think that's a Jim Harbaugh trait. I think it's amazing. He has this thing where it's like, and he's done it. That's what he does. Like Michigan could not beat Ohio State, and he still kept them together and focused and locked in and all the things. And then finally they beat them. Then they go, and it's like, I don't know. I just don't understand why more people weren't trying to interview Harbaugh, but whatever. Their idiocracy is your gain. So there's that. So what would you say are the strengths of your team? When you look at your team, what do you say? We're really good here. We're really good at, what are those things that you feel like you guys are really good at?
Sure. And this kind of leans into another part that I was surprised about. We expected the defense to step up, but I don't think we expected them to be that good. And it ends up being one of our strengths. I believe as of this recording, we have the lowest points against. So in the whole NFL. Scoring on us, even with that 40 point game against Tampa Bay, which is just, crazy. And we have a healthier Joey Bosa. He's played a few games here. They limited his snaps. Same thing with Khalil Mack. Still in the league. He's getting up there as far as NFL terms in age. I believe he's in early mid-30s. And he's still being productive. Again, I have to credit Jim Harbaugh bringing the strength and conditioning coach, Ben Herbert. We have injuries and such, but I feel they've been able to manage them, putting some players on snap counts when needed, or not even having them, putting them on the IR or whatever needs to be done. But with the defense, Jim Harbaugh brought his guy from Michigan, Jesse Minter. And it just,
right.
There was questions about how the defense would translate to the NFL and everything. So this is his first time coaching in the NFL as a defensive coordinator. And he really, really put his name, I think, in the hat for a possibility of being, a head coach consideration next year. just because of how good the defense has been this year.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we were fortunate enough to play you all early in the season. I always tell people, like, if you want to play, you don't want to play the Steelers early, you want to play us late, because that's who we are. Because our coach is a pillar of consistency. So I think consistently in the beginning of the season, we're usually pretty consistent. But after we played you all, after we played Denver, it was like all of a sudden y'all's defenses got better, y'all's offenses got better. And I'm like, whoo, thank God we dodged that bullet, because it was like we got in there just in time to get out, just in time. So that's awesome. So what about the weaknesses? Like, what would you say are some weaknesses about the team, or some aspects of the team when you're watching, you're like, oh no, here goes our linebackers again? Or like, what is something that you think is a weakness?
It's funny you mentioned that. It's because I had that feeling a couple of weeks ago. It's actually our offense. In the middle of the season, maybe about 4 or 5 weeks ago or so, we had a hard time with our offense. Just wasn't clicking. J.K. Dobbins was put on the IR, and that was our bread and butter, the run game. And it still seemed like we were pounding the rock a little bit too much when we didn't have the personnel to do so. Our backup is Gus Edwards. He just wasn't the person to be the backup. He's not going to be, doing 1,000 yards, and he's not the best catching back. And then behind that, we had a rookie running back, Kamani Vidal, which I'm pretty high on. He was a late round pick. He had some good explosive plays, but then again, he's still a rookie, a late round rookie. So hopefully he develops it a little better. We're used to Herbie taking it on his back, throwing over 4,000 yards. And this year he just wasn't asked to do that. So he had an efficient year. Quietly, he threw 21 touchdowns with 3 interceptions. So interceptions.
Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, it's just like, and that's, oh my gosh. Yeah. When I watch Texas play, I always think like, we need some Jim Harbaugh. Like, just do the basic things, run the football, use the clock, don't put the ball in harm's way. It's just basic football.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And he brought it to the West Coast, and he really, stuck to it. So sometimes, again, J.K. Dobbins a 1-year contract. Gus Edwards, he has a 2-year contract, but next year they might cut him because it's a low salary.
Yeah.
Next person up. So hopefully in the draft we'll get some more capital there to build on this offense. Still a little shaky, there was a stretch where we weren't scoring in the second half. And it really hurt us. But
then again, the Steelers?
yeah, the Steelers. I mean, we just fell apart in that one. But even against like Tampa Bay and such, we scored only 17 points. But then the following week, we scored 34. And then
so are you more? Do you think so you're more of like a first half team? So you think first half you're good to go, and then is it the second half that you usually have trouble scoring, or does it just depend on the game?
It just depends on the game.
Okay.
Like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, against Denver, we had a bunch of 4 and outs in the first quarter, and I came home and I was listening to on the radio. I was super pumped, and then we had 2 4 and outs, and I was like, really? Like, this is how we're going to do it? We end up coming in and playing the second half, and since we played that second half, we haven't stopped, and we put 40 against New England. Hopefully expecting good results this weekend against the Raiders. But as like you mentioned earlier with Jim Harbaugh, like, you get punched out, but you're not knocked out. Like we keep coming, and they keep, the focus on where it needs to be. So we're hoping for good things, hopefully in the playoffs.
Yeah. Is there anybody, so transitioning kind of like to the playoffs and the scheduling, and like I said before, we don't know who's going to play who, but we kind of know. We're just waiting to see like who gets the 7th seed. So you guys are the 6th, right? Well, it's going to depend on if we lose. If we lose, we could potentially be the 6th. And then got it. If we win, we're the 5th. If we lose and y'all win, we're the 6th, I think is how it is.
There are a lot of different ways that this can play out. So we're not locked in the 6th. I believe if Pittsburgh wins, if you win out and the Baltimore wins out, then or loses, then we would get the 6th, and then you would be in the 3rd. But there's
because Baltimore could lose. Yeah. I forgot about that.
There's 3 teams though, because we can still move up to the 5th as well. So there's a lot of math, a lot of things that's going to happen this week, especially with the 2 games that are happening on Saturday. in your division. So we'll be
Yeah.
looking at that. Of the three teams, it's going to be Houston, Baltimore, or Pittsburgh that we'll be facing. I can tell you the two I want to see: Houston
Yeah.
and Steelers. Houston is just on a downward spiral. They just got blown out on Christmas
Yeah. What
Day.
is going on with them?
Not sure. They're just
Yeah.
CJ Stroud just doesn't have the magic that he had last year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we're more than willing to go over there and play in their house.
I feel
and
the
take
same
that
way.
The Steelers, I feel we could get that one back. That's probably like the next one I would want.
Yeah.
But then the one I'm trying to avoid, and this is the highest probability that we have, is facing Baltimore again in Baltimore.
Okay.
The reasons why for that one, it's just you get the Harbaugh. Believe it or not, they are close and they do talk. So, but it's a toss up. You
Yeah.
know your opponent, but then also they know you. So
Yeah. And you know them in a way that nobody else will ever, just for obvious reasons. So that makes it a little bit, yeah. How do you feel about going against, like, do you think because let me backtrack. Anytime you have a good defense, it's like, it makes you don't want to play a high powered offense, but if you have to play in a high powered offense, you like your chances because you're like, okay, they're going to make some plays, but we're pretty good. We're going to make some plays. How would you feel about like a Bills matchup? How do you feel like you all match up with the Bills?
That is a great question, and I'm so lucky I'm not in the NFC because all those teams, I mean, they're gonna kill each other out just to get
Yeah.
to the end. But that's a good question as far as the Bills. The team that was probably the number one in total team I would want to avoid. Even the
Yeah.
Chiefs we were able to keep close. That team is a complete team. They have a mobile quarterback, which the Chargers kind of struggle with. And same thing with the running back as well with James Cook, complete offense. We have a good defense, very strong. But again, our personnel, I don't think would be able to withstand that. That would be, who can outcoach who.
Yeah.
But if you're talking player for player, I mean, the Bills have most people beat, I feel, in the
Yeah.
AFC.
No, I'm not. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. So now the $1 million question is: you all go to the Super Bowl and you win the Super Bowl, and 5 minutes after you win the Super Bowl, I call you and I'm like, "Oh my God, Josh, they did it! Can you believe that? Oh my God!" What would you say the reason that they won the Super Bowl? Like, what would be your thing where you were like, "We won the Super Bowl because of what is that thing?"
Jim Harbaugh. I mean,
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, he's really good. We don't have the best players, but he gets the best out of them. And
Nice.
that leaves
Okay.
it open for any given Sunday. And he's going to be the one to outcoach, outmatch anyone if we get to that point. And that is through the season. And then, of course, just off season would be Joe Ortiz. We picked him up. He's our general manager, just for putting the pieces in place to get there. So, but we have a bunch of great players. We have, but you can see last year we only had 5 wins with Brandon Staley coaching. This year with Jim Harbaugh, with the same team, very similar team, he was able to get double the point or double the wins on that. So
Yeah.
I really, really do think, at first I was a little skeptical. I know this guy's good, but how good can he really be? And I'm fully convinced that any success we have in the postseason, if we even get to the Super Bowl, would be because of Jim
Because
Harbaugh.
of him. So, who would you like to play in the Super Bowl? Like, if you could pick your matchup, who would be like a good Super Bowl matchup for you guys? Do you think?
That is a tough one. You know, I think the Detroit would be a good matchup. Right now they're kind of hurting with Montgomery out. I know they have Gibbs. But the passing, the receivers they have on that team, I believe that would be the better matchup. Philly with the healthy Hurts might be the second one. I would Saquon Barkley's having a season, man,
Yeah.
and him running. the football, we struggle against some of those runners, even in the
Okay.
AFC with Derrick Henry and his comeback season. Those power runners that can both have power and can run the distance, we tend to struggle with. So if anyone in the NFC that's most likely to go to the Super Bowl that I would rather face would probably be the Detroit Lions.
Detroit, yeah. And it's so interesting because I've asked this question to everyone that I've spoken with. It's so interesting how scrambling quarterbacks seems to be the X factor for everybody. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what fan base I talk to. It doesn't matter who I've talked to. Everyone is saying the same thing. It's like everybody wants to play a stationary quarterback. They would prefer it. And so I just think that that's funny. I mean, obviously it makes sense, but it's just funny that everybody collectively is like, yeah, no, thank you. No.
And a lot
the
of
funny
those
thing,
teams, the good ones that they have in common is they have a good offensive front, but they have the scrambling quarterback and good running backs. So they have a good running game to complement that. So it's when they can run the play option, and if the quarterback decides to take off and has some legs, I mean, yeah, it seems to be the way the NFL is kind of going, a little bit more so. But anything could happen. So
yeah. So there's going to be a lot of new fans that will watch the Chargers play for the first time all year. And you know how this goes, right? New fans brings new criticisms. And why didn't they do the thing? And why didn't they da-da-da? And why are they not running the ball? Why are they not? And you're like, because that's not what we do. But nobody knows that because they don't watch your team play. What are some things or some pointers or some things you want to call out that you're like, listen, this is how, like for me, I'm like, listen, when the Steelers play, it's going to be low scoring. Don't tweet me. Don't ask me any questions. It's going to be low scoring. I can't, just don't ask me why. It just is, right? And everyone's like, all right. So what are some things that you would say a typical Chargers game, what would that look like?
That's a good question. It's going to be kind of boring, at least from what we've seen this year. You're going to have maybe a good play, big play from Justin Herbert, but we don't have many wide receivers out there. His go-to is Lad McConkey, and he's not catching the long balls. A lot of short plays, a lot of running, short runs. 2 to 3 yards here and there that add up. So. It could be kind of the unmovable object meets the unstoppable force, right? I think that's what I said. But it can be a little bit boring, but I guess in that sense. But I really think that it can leave stuff open to criticism as well. They do hold on to the football. That's another big thing. There's not as many turnovers.
Okay.
So just a lot of smart play, kind of the old school pound the rock, a lot on the line of scrimmage action.
Sounds like a Steelers game.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not going to get a lot of scoring. We're going to lean on our defense. We're probably going to punt when you think we should go for it. We're going to do, I always tell people like we have basic football and it just is what it is. That's just how we play. We're probably never going to blow anybody out. It's not going to be like that. Everything's probably going to be close. And that's just how it's going to be. I mean, a lot of games in the NFL are close, but you know what I mean? Like we don't do anything great. It's just going to be what it's going to be. So I love that. And the other thing I will say about the Chargers that I don't think gets a lot of attention is I think you guys have a pretty good offensive line. And I don't think comparable to, because like I remember watching last year and I was like, what is this? Like, what is going on? So watching this year, I know there was an effort made to obviously like go get a left tackle, go get things to make it work better. And I feel like when your offensive line is good, nobody ever talks about it because it's good. But when it's not, everyone talks about it. And so I feel like it's probably like not the best offensive line statistically or anything like that, but it gets the job done. And I don't think a lot of people pay attention to how consistent the offensive line is. Maybe that's the right word. It's just consistent.
Absolutely. And that's like you mentioned, and kind of just touching back, like this is the boring part of football. Our first round pick, or the number 5 pick that we got last year, Joe Alt, as a right tackle, everyone was kind of like, well, you need offense. You know, we had Brock Bowers we were looking at.
Yeah.
Not we didn't take Malik Neighbors, who was the second wide receiver to go.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and this goes back again to Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh and how they look at it, because they were looking at Joe Alt, and if they didn't get Joe Alt, I believe the next wide receiver they said, I believe his name is Brian Thompson. He's the rookie wide receiver for Jacksonville. And he's the one blowing it up, but he wasn't on anyone's draft board as far as top 10 or top 5 wide receiver.
Okay.
So those were the 2 picks that they were looking for. They went with Joe Alt. They're building that offensive line. Joe Alt has quietly had a really amazing rookie season as our right tackle. And, you know, that's what he's building. Next year, we're going to be looking to the part of our weakness of our offensive line is on the guards and our center. But even then, our center was a 1-year contract. They were looking to just kind of fill in holes where they could, and then, you know, we'll build for that. So I would expect them to go offensive line, probably wide receiver, tight end next year in the draft as well.
I love when a team drafts offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers. Like, those are my teams. Yeah. Like, because I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody wants a Justin Jefferson or a Chase Claypool. Like, I got it. Yes, give me those 2. Got it. However, you need the other, like, you need the beef. You need the offensive line. Like, you need a pass rusher. You need a linebacker that can make a tackle. Like, and so I like watching teams. I was watching the draft last year, and I'm like, here goes Harbaugh. Like, he's gonna get that offensive line, man. If he doesn't do anything else, he's gonna get that offensive line. So kudos to him. I think that's how you build programs. I think that's how you build a solid team. And he is overachieving, and he's doing everything he should be right now. And good for him. So I'm happy. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for the Chargers. Like, this is football. They're doing everything they need to do. So, and next year they should just be even better, which is scary to think about, because this year they're kind of flying under the radar, in my opinion. But, you know, maybe we can get you guys to knock off the Chiefs one day.
Oh yeah, next few years, I believe so.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that is the goal. That is the goal. So,
well, we will end on you. Before we end on you, I just want to thank you again for like chatting with me. I'm sure Vanessa will watch this at some point, or if she can hear me or something. I just want to thank her for like putting me in contact. For those of you that don't know, Vanessa is his wife. I'm friends with Vanessa. I was about to say his husband. That isn't right. So shout out to Vanessa for being amazing and like connecting us so that we can have this conversation. So I appreciate her for that. And then secondly, thank you for being willing. I know sometimes this is like uncomfortable. It's not really, it's actually really uncomfortable to like sit and talk to a camera, but I do that often. So when I get a person, I'm like, hey people, hi, how are you? What about your team? I usually don't have that option. So for me, this is comfortable, but I get for other people, it might not be so comfortable. So I appreciate you just like chatting with me and being willing to talk to me and educating me, because we're all learning all of these teams as we move forward in the playoffs. So is there anything you want to say before we end this, just about your team, or if you want to shout out like any Chargers? I don't know, whatever works for you. This is your time.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's been a great season. It's been fun to watch. Hopefully, I mean, it would be a fun matchup to go back to Pittsburgh, get that one back. So, but just good luck to you. Good luck to your team and all the teams in the playoffs. And thank you again, Tanisha, for having me. This has been an amazing experience. Wishing you all the best. Yeah,
thank you so much. Also, just for laughs, Vanessa is a Steelers fan. So there's that. So just in case you want to know, I always tell people you can always find a Steelers fan somewhere. We will appear when you least expect us.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, thanks for joining me, Josh.
Thank you so much.